everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Souls Outside. We get started just briefly chatting about the kind of things we put aside when we think we need more time for other things and what happens when we are lacking intention with what's replacing them. Kind of ambiguous, and it makes sense when you get there. Then we're going to welcome on Dr. Jackie Obermeyer, who's the founder of Tuned Sound Therapy. And we're going to hear a little bit about her journey from, well, being classically trained in music and engineering, just like me, to sound therapy in her current practice and how it integrates a lot of science and human biology into her practice. Because she's going to then, at the very end, lead us through this amazing sound meditation, going through our chakras, which she actually explains what chakras are from a physics and biological perspective. So if you like that kind of stuff, section 2 at the end is exactly for you. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Souls Outside, where we're all about finding the trail to stay true to your path. We do this by inviting featured guests on every show to share with you how you can follow in their soul prints, so you can choose which trail maps you need to continue on your journey. My name is Shannon Pohl, and I'm loving having navigated my own pivot from engineering to now being a master results coach and hypnotherapist, plus a forest guide who loves getting outside so we can learn from the nature, foster stewardship, and really amplify our successes by being outside and in nature. I'm so excited to have you join today's episode. Welcome to Souls Outside. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Souls Outside. Today is a really awesome episode. I mean, they're all awesome. And today one is really exciting because I'm bringing on Dr. Jackie Obermeyer has agreed to come on and be our featured guest today. And she's a fellow engineering graduate. She went on and did a PhD that she'll mention in our section 2. And it was actually through her PhD work that she got more interested in other therapies and different things, got into sound therapy, and really just is going to lead us in a phenomenal meditation in our third section today. So definitely stay tuned and listen. And I mean, lots of people that come on this show have similar pieces to their journey as I do, their own versions for sure, and similar elements. And Jackie's really parallels mine in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned, we both came up through engineering. We've both pivoted into a very non-traditional engineering path, where while we're bringing forward all of the great science information and the logic and the process thinking, we're expanding beyond, well, engineering, really, which is just so cool to meet someone like that. And we also both gave up something that we loved at that time, thinking we need to focus more on our engineering work. So let her share about yours. And I know you've heard about mine maybe a little bit before. However, I wanted to use just our little bit of opening time to talk a little bit about those things that we love again, and how important it is to make time for it. So I know when I went into engineering, and it was university, like it doesn't matter what program I was going to do at school, I'm 95% sure I would have made this choice regardless of what program I entered. So by no means is it linked to the degree I did. And it was just like university is that time where you have to focus and you have to put, a lot more time in. And so I decided that no more reading for me. I love reading novels. And growing up, my brothers called me the book moose. I don't know how moose is the right animal. I still don't understand that. And one day when they watch this, they can maybe let me know. So I have no idea why it was a book moose. That was called a book moose because I was always reading, always had my nose in a book. Yeah, maybe because it was very focused on it. Anyways, and so I was like, well, I probably waste too much time reading that I'm going to need for studying. However, logical, need more time for studying, maybe, and I was perceiving it as other people, because my perceptions of other people's perceptions of me reading was that it was a waste of time. And so I decided to put it aside. However, I forgot the piece about sticking clear to what was replacing it. Because while maybe I was spending too much time reading, although I got really awesome grades in high school, so I highly doubt I was wasting any of my time. Um, what replaced it wasn't time studying. I ended up watching a lot of TV with my roommate, which, as we've talked in other episodes, um, when we're talking about is an activity adding energy to you or draining energy or neutral, TV for me is at most neutral. It doesn't really add anything to my batteries, whereas reading is very recharging for me. So instead of doing a recharging activity, I was doing a neutral activity on top of a very draining workload and new lifestyle. So in hindsight, wasn't maybe the best choice. However, I've definitely learned, and that's something that this is probably about 8 years ago now. I brought more reading back into my life for sure, and that's where this story I know I've shared before. However, I'll highlight for people who haven't watched earlier episodes yet. Um, Souls Outside came from when I asked myself when COVID started hitting, and things started shutting down. Like, okay, like if I were, life's really shutting down and I can only do so many things, like what is super important to me? And it was this resounding be outside in my head. And like, what is it that, we need more of? Get outside. And so that's really where, I tap back into that. Not that I'd never gone outside, however, being more intentional with it. And that's where, again, part of the reason where the idea for Souls Outside came was how do we connect people with nature and keep that outdoorsy vibe alive, even when we are inside. So I won't get too much into that. It's definitely talked about in earlier episodes. However, I wanted to highlight that when we are choosing to maybe put something we love aside for very good reason, we want to make sure we're very intentional about what's filling that space, and to make sure it's still an adding energy, activity, if that's what it was, if it was meant for. And so with that, we're going to wrap up this little section, and I'm so excited to introduce you in a few moments to Dr. Jackie Obermeyer. Stay tuned. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Jackie Obermeyer, who is the founder of Tuned Sound Therapy. I've heard a little snippet of her things before. It's phenomenal. And she's here first to share with us a little bit of her journey from going from being classically trained in violin to, well, founding Tuned Sound Therapy. So Jackie, welcome to our show.
Thanks so much, Shannon. I'm so excited to be here, and I love the community that you're creating with the focus on nature and being outside, because that is a huge part of my practice as well. Even though I work with sound, whenever I'm working with energy in general, it's really important to cultivate that connection with nature so that we can ground ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is going to be wonderful. So I want to ask you more about nature. However, let's start off with a little bit about your journey, about how you've evolved your practice, your journey.
Yeah, so I am classically trained in violin, but I actually went to school for engineering. So my background.
I did know that. I totally forgot about that.
It's all good. Yeah, my undergraduate degree is in chemical and biochemical engineering, and then I did a PhD in chemical and biomedical engineering at the University of Toronto. And my focus for my thesis project was around drug delivery to the brain to treat stroke. And I was working specifically with a drug that's known to affect neuroplasticity. And so my expertise is really in how the brain can rearrange itself after injury, but then also just from a learning perspective, because that's what happens when we learn. The brain makes new connections. And it was during that time, that very stressful time in my life where I was in grad school, and I was seeing all of the energy and effort that goes into pharmaceutical research and development. And my health and well-being was suffering through that process, partially because I had put music aside to get through all of that, um, not realizing that it was not doing that was really causing a lot of the suffering for me. And so through discovering mindfulness practices and meditation and self-reflection, I realized that I needed to bring that music back into my life. And as soon as I did, everything improved, from my mental health to my physical health to my relationships with others. And that really got me thinking about the power of music and sound. And with my knowledge about neuroplasticity and how the brain rewires, it had me thinking, could we use sound and music to rewire the brain and make those connections without having to do invasive procedures, or deliver drugs potentially? And so around the time that I was experiencing all of this stress and looking for different ways of dealing with it, I was looking for a meditation retreat actually, and I stumbled upon a certification program for sound therapy. And it kind of grabbed me in a way that I knew that I needed to investigate this a little deeper. And so I signed up for that certification program. And that weekend really changed so many things for me. Um, it reminded me of the power of sound, and it also offered a possibility for my future that was not in academia or pharmaceutical R&D. And that at that point in time was a real stress relief for me, because I was really on this like one track path that was laid out for me, and just seeing the stress continue into the future because nothing would change was adding to the stress, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Yep.
Yeah. So after experiencing that and experiencing the sounds and really going through some big shifts in my perspective and seeing other possibilities, that changed my trajectory and got me more in touch with the music and the sound again. And when I defended my PhD, I actually went and did the second level certification the weekend after I did that. And when I got back from that, I opened Tune Sound Therapy as a practice. Yeah.
Oh, this is so excellent. And definitely, I mean, echoes of some of the stories I've shared with listeners in our first section today, about how like I decided to drop reading when I went to university because somehow that was a good idea until I got addicted to watching TV, which was way worse for my mental health. So yes, that we think we need to drop some of these things to have space for the new thing, and then you're like, no, 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 that was the thing keeping me sane. Fit that back into life.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to let those things go for a little while to recognize just how impactful they are in our lives. So no regrets through like any of that process. It was a huge learning experience for me. And it really opened up my eyes to all the different things that I could incorporate into my life, and all the tools that are available to us to use to find that balance.
Very cool. And I want to ask you a little bit about those tools. However, first, you mentioned how important nature is with your practice and in your life. And I thought maybe you could expand a little bit on that.
Definitely. So we are really just big walking electrical circuits, and we need grounding in the same way that a circuit does. And that's what being in nature provides to us. And when we can be in contact with nature, like putting bare feet on the earth, hugging a tree, as kind of hippy dippy as that sounds, it is really good for us to be able to channel any excess energy that we stir up doing any kind of energy work, having somewhere to channel that so that our system doesn't get overloaded. So anytime I'm working with clients, in individual sessions or in a group setting even, I really recommend that they go and do some grounding work after experiencing that energy.
Beautiful. Yes, I just agree. And I think that's beautiful. And
There's
so important
also
is,
there's also the spiritual component to this as well. Like being in nature reminds us that we are a part of nature, that we are made up of the earth elements. And so many of us, I feel, are very disconnected from nature and don't see ourselves as being a part of it. And that separation leads to things like loneliness and anxiety and depression. So when we can reconnect with that, it's like we're reconnecting with part of ourselves. And that really strengthens our relationship with ourselves and the earth.
Beautiful. I'm so glad that you are on our podcast, because I think that's something that echoing a lot of what a lot of our listeners and watchers are wrestling with, and it's giving them a really clear picture on how they can start to reclaim some of that for themselves, those connections. Excellent. So, which you're about to give us a sneak peek on into your practice and some of the sounds that we could experience in your events, workshops, one-on-one sessions. And just before, I guess, we get into that, with a little bit of a prequel, maybe just a few seconds on like chakras and energy blockages and that whole balancing thing.
Right. So when I entered this space, I was very frustrated by the lack of information that there was around chakras and the energetic system. And chakra seemed to be a word that was just thrown around and no one really knew exactly what it was. And coming from my engineering background, it's like, well, no, I want to know, like, what is this
I'm just
thing?
going to say it, and you have to know what it is.
Exactly. And how does it impact my life? So through my own knowledge and being in that space, I've been able to connect ideas in such a way that I understand chakras from more of a scientific perspective and from a biology background. So the chakras are electromagnetic fields that are generated by nerves. So if you think back to high school physics and the right hand rule, wherever you have a current running through a wire, you have an electromagnetic field generated perpendicular to that, right? Yeah. If we think about our nerves, what are nerves? They are wires with current running through them. Yeah. So where we have dense bundles of nerves with current running through them, we have larger electromagnetic fields being generated around those bundles. And our endocrine glands, which are what secrete the hormones that act as the messengers between the different systems of our body to coordinate all our systems, the endocrine glands are very highly innervated. So that's where these chakras are, around these heavily innervated centers. And each of these different centers relates to a different area of our life. For example, the root chakra, right at the base of the spine, related to the cauda equinus, is around family, stability, tribe, sense of safety. Right. So with these different centers, I can use different sounds. I have trained myself and I can train others to associate different sounds with the different centers and then use those sounds to trigger different behaviors in those centers.
Amazing. That was a way more detailed answer than I was expecting, and I loved it. Because I've been working with chakras a little bit myself for the last few years, and that's the first time someone has spoken to my science brain about them, and my science brain is like, oh, thank you. So I hope it didn't overwhelm anyone. If you got lost in the scienciness, it's totally cool. You'll still enjoy the meditation that we're going to get to in just a moment.
And that's what I love about this space too. Like you can take it at so many different levels and just take what works for you and the information that you need to improve your well-being.
Excellent. All right, everyone stay tuned. We'll get to a meditation in just a moment. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited that we still have Dr. Jackie Obermeyer here, who's the founder of Tuned Sound Therapy. And she's going to give us a sneak peek at really what her practice is all about and share with us some of the different sounds. And we highly recommend that right now you put in headphones, because that's really going to be how you're going to maximize your experience to make it the best ever for you. So I'll pass it over to Jackie to introduce us to a little bit more about what we're doing and to guide us through a meditation.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. And with this meditation, I'll be taking you through a scan of each of the energetic centers and using the sound of my tuning forks to guide that experience and that developing that awareness. So you'll hear the sound of the tuning fork after I've introduced the center and directed your attention to the physical place in your body where that center is. And then I'll end off with a little bit of violin to just help to ground us and bring us back into the space.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So just starting to take some deep breaths. Coming into this space, into this time, into your body. Feeling each and every point that the body is making contact with the ground. Giving yourself permission to be fully here, fully now, and fully present, so that you can enjoy the sound and this divine experience. Setting the intention to connect with each of the energetic centers, and to cultivate that communication within yourself. Dropping your consciousness down to the root chakra, right at the base of the spine. Seeing the color red, feeling safe, secure, and grounded. Drawing the awareness up to the lower abdomen, the sacral chakra, feeling all of your passion and creativity, seeing the color orange. Moving your focus up to just above the navel, the solar plexus, feeling all of your power housed within your core, knowing you are talented and that your gifts are appreciated. A blazing yellow sun is housed here. Moving the awareness up to the heart chakra, right at the chest, maybe placing a hand there over the heart. Feeling the beat, the pulse, the magic that is your life force. Knowing that you are loved and that you are love. Seeing the center as the color green. Moving your consciousness up to the throat chakra, knowing that your message is important and that you are heard. The color blue surrounding this center. Moving up to the third eye, right in the middle of the forehead and right in the center of the head from front to back. Connecting with your inner guidance and your intuition, knowing that you are always aware of your thoughts if you want to be, seeing the color purple at this center. And shifting focus up to the top of the head, just above the head, the crown chakra. Feeling the connection with everything in this universe. Knowing that you are nature and that you are a divine being. Seeing the color white. And now imagining your feet growing roots, reaching deep down to the earth's core so that you can feel the earth's heartbeat and the song that the earth is singing. Starting to bring life back into fingers and toes, giving them a little wiggle, bringing a smile to your face as you take a deep breath in and let it go. And gently blinking the eyes open and returning to the space.
Wonderful. I love the people who come on our podcast and share meditations like you did. That was beautiful. And
Thank
afterwards,
you.
I'm like, let's just wrap it up and have some more quiet time. So thank you so much. We'll leave everyone still in our meditative space. Thank you so much for that. That was truly beautiful. I know you've included an offer for all of our listeners for 50% off of a chakra activation session, which I think everyone should take advantage of now that we've just experienced like the tiniest, sneakiest peek of what you can do. And obviously there's definitely opportunities to explore with you more for other sound therapy sessions. Anyone listening and watching can join your mailing list via your website to hear about events and workshops and other cool ways to experience more of that beauty.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me, Shannon. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I really look forward to connecting more on potential collaborations in the future.
Yes.
I love the nature and grounding, and I think the sound therapy goes really well with that. So looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you. That's an excellent sneaky peek for all of our listeners and watchers. All right. Thank you again. And everyone else, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining us today on Souls Outside. And we hope you enjoyed walking in our featured guest soul prints as much as we did. As always, we like to wrap up each episode with our extreme gratitude and appreciation for our founding sponsors who quite literally made it possible for Souls Outside to become a reality. First off, special thanks goes to Eche Savas and her company Palindrome Design for the amazing cover art, and noting that their sponsorship comes in support of their passion project, Self Build Sustainable. We'd also like to thank Chuck Henry for his amazing music, original music, that is featured throughout the episode. And of course, Elise Cannon, our amazing editor, who quite literally made it possible for any of these episodes to see the light of day. They probably would still be on a hard drive on my computer without her expertise, skill, and passion for editing. So we thank them so much. And until next time, we hope you enjoy your journey and continue following in the soul prints of those who have gone before. Hey, one last thing before you go. If you wish you could talk about this episode with myself, our featured guest, or other like-minded individuals like yourself, join us on Facebook or LinkedIn in our Souls Outside Facebook and LinkedIn groups. On Facebook, we do watch parties. On both, we have awesome conversations about what we talked about and are able to answer your questions on how you can go even further on your soul print journey.